The government implemented, I think, like a three-pronged approach. One was around the issue of security, making sure that they provide security for the people, which included operation to wipe out the LRA. Secondly, the government also got involved in providing humanitarian assistance to the people, as well as development initiative. And some of those ones I can quickly think about is Northern Uganda Rehabilitation Program, which was, I think, initiated in the 90s. And there were two phases of that. And that was followed by Northern Uganda Social Action Fund, which has also already entered into the second phase. And right now, as we are talking, there is the Peace Recovery and Development Plan. And I also want to say that according to the government, NUSAF 2 is actually implementing arm of the PRDP. Okay, so we say, because the PRDP is the overarching plan, the framework for all reconstruction process, to guide the reconstruction process. Yes, I would say there's attempt being made, but I would go back to my other point, is that still a lot still needs to be done, because if you have a poverty level which is twice the national, that will tell us, and this has been consistent.
There's a stability. But war has just ended, you have to be fair, in the north.
That doesn't mean it is when the war has ended, then if there is disparity, you keep quiet about it.
Well, there's PRDP, you just mentioned it.
Well, the PRDP has also had its own challenges.
Okay.
I said earlier that the PRDP has done a lot in terms of rehabilitating infrastructure, but it has fallen short of rehabilitating the human person.
How do you want them to do it?
Accessing opportunity, economic opportunity for the
example, build large factories in the north.
That would be one of them.
Well, but you've turned away sugar factory in the north. They say you don't want sugar in that place.
That is misrepresentation. Okay, I have been to this particular sub-county where the issue of land has been, and I don't want that to be a subject of discussion here. But I think by and large, we need to listen to the people. What are the people saying? It is not about turning the investors away. There are other investors who have been there, and I don't think they have really had any issue. So let's not capitalize on one problem to mean everything. But I don't want to make these other discussion the subject of this debate now.
Okay, I'd like us to talk about peace building, Lillian. Let's talk about, for instance, some of the undercurrents that we've seen, even in the capital, where tribal violence, the Uganda riots in September 2009. We had the Mabira riots in 2007. How do you characterize these kind of things?
Of course, in that note, probably there are groups of categories of people that we have at the moment who are discontented. And if we're to look at ways of peace building, normally we talk about negotiating rather than using armed conflict or using arms to actually disperse the conflict or to deal with
what would you like
them
to come with? Bananas handing over to rioters?
No, I would like them to negotiate, to actually come up with the issues that they really are talking about and basically deal with them. But of course you have
you want the police to begin a peacing rally. Talk about peace.
No, we know that the police is supposed to actually maintain peace and protect its people, not to go out and do otherwise.
And bludgeon them with a hand gloves. Let's talk about this International Peace Day, Godfrey.
Yeah.
On the 21st, we commemorate the International Peace Day, and you are leading the process. What are some of the activities that you're undertaking to promote peace building there?
Yeah, just a quick one to say that, yes, we are not the one leading the process, because maybe I first give a background or a genesis. The International Day of Peace was a product of a declaration by the UN General Assembly in 1981. And I think 10 years later, in 2002, they did a revisiting, and they actually designated September 21st to be commemorated worldwide as the International Day of Peace, and fundamentally to promote the spirit of non-violence, and also to promote or to to entrench the spirit for ceasefire. And this year, actually we have been celebrating it since then. This year, first of all, the national celebration has been scheduled to take place in Gulu. In terms of organization, it is actually the Office of the Prime Minister. We have what we call the National Platform for Peace Building and Conflict Prevention, which is hosted by the Office of the Prime Minister, and I think that is the organizing framework. And the platform brings in all actors in peace and conflict resolution in the country. But also, most importantly, it is the UN, because there is a UN declaration. So we have the UN office here, which in Uganda, which has really been supporting this process. For us as civil society, we are supporting the process because that is very close to our heart in that sense. So the national celebration is going to take place in Gulu. And fundamentally, the theme for this year is make your voice be heard. The youth must engage now. And I think the theme took care of the situation, because every year you have to revisit the situation and you assign the theme and the activities accordingly. In terms of breaking down the activities, today we had a peace caravan launched in Gulu district, just to make sure that people get engaged in this process, people know what is going on. Because I want to point out the one thing, that it is now 5 years that northern Uganda has experienced peace.
Yes.
After the signing of the cessation hostilities agreement in 2006, August 26. So that makes 5 years. And that is fundamental, because even the World Bank says 40% of countries emerging from conflict actually relapse back into war within 5 to 10 years, and we have survived that.
How was this, the beginning, the first years we passed it?
I think we have done well so far. So I think putting the national celebration in Gulu, the epicenter of the LRA conflict, is significant, especially now that the region has actually experienced 5 years of post-conflict peace and recovery. So the peace caravan is going on. It will be running in Gulu district. Tomorrow we are going to be having a public debate involving all categories of stakeholders, from children, youth.
Which hotel is that debate?
It's taking place in a school. It's not in an hotel.
Why not a hotel?
It's St. Monica School, which is in Gulu. I think it is the most conducive venue. Why do you want to go to a hotel?
It's all right. Maybe there's still some tea in that place. Go on.
Edmond, you're funny.
Go on.
Okay. So there's going to be debate tomorrow. It will take the whole day, and the idea is to listen to people to articulate. But also we want people who are skilled in some areas to be able to give input and share ideas. That's the idea of having the public dialogue. And then on 21st, we are expecting the Prime Minister, the Right Honorable Prime Minister, to preside over the event. There's going to be a lot of activities. Exhibition is going to be there. Different agencies are going to showcase what they have been doing over the last 5 years to consolidate the peace. And then, of course, there's
it's a landmark event. Look at 5 years of peace.
I think for this country, this is a landmark event. But also importantly, that gradually over the years, I think Uganda, northern Uganda, but also the Great Lakes, there has been a bit of change. If you compare like let's 10 years ago, when we had war all over the place, Burundi, Rwanda, DRC Congo, Southern Sudan, and then Uganda, we had our own squabble. There has been some relative movement towards restoring calm. Southern Sudan, now we have a new nation. It comes with challenges. DRC Congo, they're preparing for the next election because it used to be through the barrel of the gun. Don't ask me about what will happen in the election because that is another debate. And Rwanda, there is a relative calm. We have relative calm in Burundi. But we have also also made some gain in Somali because Al-Shabaab have actually left.
They're out of the capital.
Yes. So I think there are reasons for this country really to celebrate this day.
Lillian, let's talk about the other forms of the violence that you're talking about. How can we remove those? First of all, outline them for us. Domestic violence and other things. Talk to us about those.
Okay, if we look at the other forms of violence, we are looking at issues related to gender-based violence. You know, in any armed conflict situations, there are issues related to violence against women and against men. There's a lot of rape, defilement going on, and the effects of that. And what we see now, we see like from the northern Uganda war, for instance, we have over 30,000 women that suffered gender-based violence. But
30,000 women.
Yeah, reportedly in the situation. But as for where we work as
that's a large number, enough to fill a football
stadium. Well.
By the way, it is 65%.
65.
At least who have reportedly.
Yeah, we know that it's one in 6 women have reported violence, according to the Uganda demographic survey that was carried out. But if we're looking at northern Uganda too, for care where it works, we have reported cases, instances, over 700 cases that were reported. That means if we are to really systematically go and they report, they believe in the systems, we may have more or less. Most of the cases go unreported.
So it's mostly gender-based violence after the macro level violence.
Yes.
But we also have the issue of land violence.
Land conflict.
We have land conflict right now. People return home, especially if I'm to look at the girls or the ex-combatant that came back, you find that they are deprived of land. And at the moment, in northern Uganda, there are issues related to land conflicts that we have to sort out. Every day there are cases that come in. I have no land, I need land, and yet we know that land is one of the essentials of production. Without land, you can't produce.
And does the environment try to resolve this? Do the courts strong enough, for instance, to deal with the conflict?
For land in northern Uganda, for instance, there are different ways that they're being tackled out. We have the clan system. They have a very strong clan system in northern Uganda. So we have to appreciate that.
So the environment is right. Those can be resolved. Once the big wars ended, these small ones can be solved.
They're not small. Land is not a small issue.
Well, but you say it can be sorted out culturally by the leaders, elders.
It's a starting point. However, we have to think of land at a bigger level. Already we are talking about land in different areas. People saying land should be given to these people, land should not be given to these people. So we should not consider it as a micro level. It should be a national issue because people need the land to produce, to live. It's their home. It's their belonging. It's a sense of nationality and heritage. And we know that our constitution gives you a right to live. So if you have no land, you have nowhere to live.
All right. Maybe before we hear from the listeners, talk to us, Godfrey, about political tolerance around the country. Do we see that, or do we see undercurrents that could foment violence?
Well, if you go by manifestations, then I think they are indicators that they are undercurrents. But the bigger debate around it maybe is too big for even these few minutes we have.
What do you mean by that?
But
give us some snippets.
Well, we need to probably examine the underlying causes. What is attributing to all this? You earlier mentioned the riot in 2009. I was not in the country, but I was able to follow what was going on. And then recently we had this walk to work. Probably people are trying to express themselves, but I think it is the responsibility of the leaders to sit together and probably have a dialogue and try to listen to the people.
So the government has some work to do to remove some of these undercurrents.
I would feel, because for us,
what should they do? Talk to the political parties or what?
For me, as an activist for non-violence, I think the best way is to talk. We are all human beings.
FDC and the other parties, they should call them to a table so they can talk.
Well, on top of political parties,
even civil society.
As civil society, our position is very clear. We need to dialogue. We need to listen to each other. it is very important that as Ugandans, because Uganda can be so small for us if we want it to be so small, but it can also be big and accommodate all of us if we make the conditions conducive. One of the fundamental conditions is to listen and to dialogue.
Do we see the current government listening at the moment?
I would like to make a comment about that, because I wish somebody was here on the part of the government to say they're listening and will be able to outline what shows.
They can still.
But for me, I don't want to speak for government. I wish somebody was here. We actually attempted that somebody could actually be here to speak for government, but unfortunately, that was not possible.
All right, this is Spectrum. You can call in now. Our numbers 0414 348 111, 0312 260 390, 0312 261 390. When you call in, please tell us your name and where you are calling from. Lillian, you said the environment is right in the north. People can solve their own problems, and the courts are strong enough. They are respected, and their decision is taken as the final word.
Well, for a start, we could say so, because as a civil society organization and as CARE, where it works basically in the communities. And what we would like to see is to rebuild on the existing social institutions, to actually make sure that they are put to use as we relate to the existing structures, the legal.
We have a caller on the line. Spectrum, hello.
Hello?
Yes, sir, your name?
Yes, this is Messenger John from Mukono Theta.
John, yes.
Thank you for visiting all the people in the studio.
Can you speak out a little louder, John?
This is Messenger John from Theta Mukono.
Yes.
Are you hearing me? Hello?
Go on, sir. Go on.
Are you hearing me?
Yes, you're loud and clear.
Okay, this is Messenger John from Theta Mukono. Thank you for hosting those visitors in the studio and introducing such a very good debate. Peace is something which is very wide, and the disappearance of the gun or the sound of the gun, it doesn't mean that there is peace, because when people are just overcharged, like how it is in Uganda, for example, the business community, how it is overcharging the people, and when people are not sensitized about very many issues, peace may also fail to prevail within the state. So what should be done in Uganda today to continue having the peace that we have and improving it? It's to see that we stop the immature politics which is played in Uganda, that aims at resurrecting all these stuff that made people to go violent, and to think that at least the business community do not overcharge the people as it is today.
Interesting point there. Spectrum, hello. Hello?
Good evening.
Good evening, sir. Your name?
My name is Orach. First of all, I want to thank the people who are discussing, and there's the reason to that. As you remember, 3 years ago, northern Uganda was a no-go area. The people there were suffering, even some parts of Western, like even Karamoja and the rest. But I want to thank, first of all, the government for the effort put in, and even the civil society for working together to bring about peace in those areas. And these are some of the things that we need to harmonize and make sure that we don't degenerate from peace we have now. What I would like to suggest to the common people is that the civil society, the government, and the leaders must now cherish dialogue. Dialogue is the only way that we can actually consolidate the peace we have and ensure that we don't generate. I also want to thank the UPDS because they have maintained peace in the whole of this region, right from North Congo, Somalia. That is a real sacrifice. But my biggest problem is the corruption, which actually may again bring problems to the whole country. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Orach. Let's get back to the studio. Godfrey.
Yes.
Yeah, the callers.
Yes, I had the callers, and
men are overcharging their credit.
you know, I thank all the callers for actually. It was more of supplementing what we are actually saying. I think maybe to respond to John from Mukono. Yes, I think at the moment is really an economic hard time for not just for Uganda alone, but for the whole world. We have seen this protest and riot, including in some of the countries that we least expected, like in the UK. It has actually even toppled government in West Africa. I think what the government needs to do, and probably to be more responsive, is to communicate to people, let people know what is happening. I feel like there is a bit of lack of communication, but also the way the communication goes to the people, because really as human beings, there's a way you can communicate something to me, even if it is bad news, but I don't take it in bad faith. But if you communicate it in a way that I feel like it undermines my dignity, then that's where the problem comes in. So I think the articulation of the global challenge as it relates to Uganda, I feel like there has been a gap in terms of doing that. But as I said earlier, I'm not here to speak for the government, but I feel like a lot has not been done in terms of letting Ugandans know what is happening. That dialogue needed to really happen. I think Owere kind of really concurred with some of the key challenges. As civil society, we believe in non-violence, and you can only inculcate non-violence when you promote dialogue. We human beings, we have superior capabilities to talk, to analyze, and to listen to each other. Now, if even the animals out there, if you drive to northern Uganda, see the baboons, they seem to be very organized.
The baboons are organized.
They seem to be very organized, but we are superior. We are more superior than them. Can we do something better that make us slightly different from the baboons? I'm not saying...
compare ourselves to baboons and begin to behave well. Go on.
Well, we came from there after all.
Some people believe. Anyway,
I believe it anyway. But then I want to talk about two things. One other thing. Corruption. You know, consolidating peace. There are a lot of things. I talk about opportunities. I talk about some of these issues like corruption. When some people abuse resources that are meant for the bigger good of the people, it affects
stability at the bottom.
Stability. And then at the end of the day, you'll have very few people who have too much, and then very many who do not have. So they haves and they have nots, where the meat is always a climb, because everybody wants. For example, in Europe and America, they have tended to put like a 100-meter wall so that people who are from disadvantaged background cannot get there. But people are still getting there. You can be rich and you create walls that are so high, but I'm telling you, things are made by human beings, and human beings will actually get there. So we need to even inequalities, and the way we can even inequalities, those who feel like they should have more than what is necessary is dangerous.
Somebody said the world has enough for all our needs, but not enough for our greed. Lillian, talk to us about the peace agenda. What can we do? You've had the question, but let's talk about his answer. Most of the question. What do you think can be done to advance the peace agenda very briefly?
Okay, one of the things that we look at as we continue with building peace is, of course, through dialogue, but involving everybody. And more so, I'm looking at, from a gender perspective, looking at the involvement of the women on the peace tables, decision-making tables, because much as we say they are there in the backyard, they need to be also on the negotiating table. So we believe if we bring them on board, and if we say they are half of the population, actually more than half of the population, then they should be actually on the actual table.
Right.
And then we look at the structures. We've had government bringing in systems that are supposed to maintain the peace. We're looking at the security organs. We're looking at the army. We're looking at the police. We are looking at the at the justice system. We need to see that these people that are supposed to be peacemakers actually maintain the peace. But most of the times we find that some of the people that actually enroll to be peacemakers, in their minds they've gone there to do something else, which brings in corruption in their minds.
Or they're going to make money through.
Yeah, they go and create violence rather than
so they can benefit
peace, because they're supposed to keep the peace of the people, the civilians, but you end up having more violence than actually peace. So we believe that we need to put that on the agenda too, and also to implement the resolutions that we ratified, like the UN 1325. I mean, it should be a reality rather than being seen on paper and all the politicians and the people we look up to. But it all starts from, to me, it all starts from the family.
We have to go. Thank you very much. Of course, you mentioned women. Honorable Betty Bigombe was at the forefront of ending the conflict.
She was only one.
I think she held that flag very.
We need more of those.
Many of them. All right. Thank you very much, Dida. I must thank our guest, Mrs. Lillian Mpabulungi Sengooba, Advocacy Manager at Care International Uganda. Thank you for coming to Spectrum. Mr. Godfrey Orach, National Coordinator, Civil Society Organizations for Peace in Northern Uganda. Thank you for coming to Spectrum.
Thank you so much, and thank you, listeners.
Thank you for tuning in. I've been your host, Edmond Chizito. We'll be back. Spectrum will be back tomorrow. Up next, though, is the news in the English language. Do stay tuned to Radio 1.
Let's talk about the home of your dreams and how you plan to finance it. Let's discuss money.